Alrighty, guys. Welcome to tonight's charting session. Hopefully you guys are having a hopefully you had a good 3-day weekend. Ready to get back to the charts, ready to get back in it. First thing we're going to start off, just take a look at news this week before we jump into the charts. So, of course, Monday we had a bank holiday, so we didn't trade today. It was a half day. Going into tomorrow, no real big news that we need to worry about. Going into Wednesday, we do have some 10 a.m. news. Chair Powell. So we have Powell speaking at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. That's going to be something that we want to pay attention to. And then on Thursday, we have some more 10 a.m. news. Also, unemployment claims 8:30. And then we have some stuff happening in pre-market 4 a.m. Interesting. Powell testifies again on Thursday. So Powell testifies 10 a.m. news Wednesday and Thursday. That's going to be interesting. And then Friday, we have PMI 9:45, so that's 15 minutes after the opening bell, so we'll see how that plays out as well. But going into tomorrow, no news that we need to worry about, so that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we get some good action, see if we get some good opportunity. So with that being said, let's jump in the charts. So going into this week, right, we just want to take a look at the charts, how we're looking, starting out on bigger time frames, and then kind of zooming in, giving us, a better bias, better understanding of what's going on. So first thing I want to look at is that weekly, right? So starting off on ES, right, it's been pretty clear to us that this weekly close was going to be something that we want to pay attention to, especially since we've taken out this weekly buy-side level now, right? So we've had a strong high here, and the biggest thing and the biggest tail that I wanted to see was how this weekly candle is going to close, right? Because a lot of the times we can get a sweep of a level, or we can, continue to break through it and then possibly continue higher. But a lot of the things that's going to tell us what's going to continue after is how we react at this level. So I'll notice a lot of the times, once we see this level come up, we want to see a rejection of this level and then an instant, sell off back down, which is kind of what we're starting to get here. Notice weekly candle comes up. We actually close below this level. That's exactly what we want to see if we want to see a push back lower. And that is what my bias is now. So going into this week, I am going to be a little bit more bearish because of this weekly candle close, right? We've now swept that buy side level. We're also in this weekly imbalance, right? We have a past fair value gap that we're in already. We've now swept this level. Weekly candle has now closed under this level, right? So now we're starting to get that displacement back inside this range. So zooming in on a daily chart now, where could we possibly see markets to go? Well, a lot of the times we like to see markets retrace to whatever, imbalances we can see. So obviously we have this daily fair value gap that we're retracing back into right now. We'll see if this ends up holding or not. If it doesn't, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see us break through this, possibly retest this later in the week, and then come down and see sell side met at around 381. So this daily fair value gap is going to be something that we want to pay attention to see if we end up holding this area or we end up breaking through it. So I am leaning more bearish. I want to see us break through this level. But now, breaking through this level, I would like to see a retracement first. So looking at the charts, now this level I have drawn in here is just it's a consequent encroachment of this wick, means it's the exact center point of this 1 hour wick that we have right here. I'm going to take this off. I can always draw that back in later, but that's important because a lot of the times when we do come back to this area, that consequent encroachment level is going to be a very sensitive area that we could potentially see a bounce area, and that's going to be a point if we are in some sort of short that we'd like to take off some of our position at that level. So we have clear sell side at these lows here. We have, one low here, one low here. We have kind of relative equal lows. This is the area that I'm going to mark as my sell side. Notice we don't really have any significant low here besides this, and I would consider this to be low resistance liquidity run. So if we most likely take out this low here, we'd most likely get a continuation push to take out these lows as well. So looking at the daily, again, this is a fair value gap that has not been traded back into yet. So again, a lot of those past imbalances I want to see get, filled or, come back to. So that's what I kind of want to see coming into this week. I want to see a retracement back down into this daily fair value gap that we have yet to retrace back into. Also, keep in mind on the weekly as well, we also have this fair value gap here as well. So I'd like to see this weekly fair value gap also get possibly traded back into in the coming days is something that I'd want to see. So zooming in, starting at the 4 hour, actually going down to the 1 hour, we can start to see some structure starting to form now, right? So again, a lot of the times when I say, you know, there's not a lot of trades, I always say I want to wait for structure to form, right? Waiting for structure to form is the biggest thing. So now that that daily buy side level has been swept, right? Now that we've had this, you know, big level being swept here, we want to look for, you know, our same model that we look for just on a bigger time frame. So looking at the 1 hour, we have sort of everything that we want starting to play out here. We have an internal break of or internal sweep of liquidity, right? So we have external sweep of liquidity. We put in a high, we put in a low, and then we come up, sweep that level one more time, and then sell off to that level here. So if we actually zoom in, there was a short opportunity here. We actually had a really bad action on Friday, very, very choppy, but that sell side liquidity was eventually met. You can see buy side was taken here. We pushed down. We had market structure shift right here, pull back to this 5-minute fair value gap, as well as this 5-minute inverse fair value gap that we had here. Pull back to this 5-minute inverse fair value gap, continue to reject, come up again, continue to reject. Again, this move is a big fake out move, right? Especially when we continue down, we would expect to see most likely just a continuation of that sell side level. This was a big fake out move. A lot of the action on Friday chopped up a lot of traders because, again, a lot of the times if we took that one trade in the morning, if we get, you know, fortunate with that one trade, a lot of the times you just take it there. Do not force anything else because you're going to get chopped up in this sort of trade. You can see eventually we continue to hold, and then the sell side was met here. So on a bigger time frame, this level here now, notice that we get displacement through it. This now becomes our market structure shift or our break of structure, whatever you want to call it. So going into this week, I want to see this bearish model start to play out now, right? We have buy side of the curve. I want to see now sell side of the curve start to form here. So looking at the chart, we have market structure shift. Notice we've now been getting that displacement to the downside. So going into tomorrow, I want to see a possible retracement up into this area and then look to take a short back to the downside. So I want to see us put in a low. Right now, it's this low. This is now our sell side level. Now, I want to see a bounce up and potentially look to sweep this 1 hour or 15-minute high to then take it back down. So we now have a clear bias, right? Going into this week, we have a draw on liquidity. In my opinion, the draw on liquidity I would want to be is here. I want the draw to be lower on a bigger time frame, right? Keep in mind, bigger time frame. So looking at this, want to draw in my fib, high to the low. Notice that discount lies perfectly in that 1 hour fair value gap that we have here. So I'd like to see price retrace back up into this 1 hour and then look to take sell side later this week. So going into tomorrow, I have a short bias. I'd like to see us come up, sweep this 15-minute high, right? Zooming into the 15-minute, we have a clear 15-minute high here. I'd like to see a push above this, look to see maybe even trade up into this fair value gap, possibly. Notice we also have this past 15-minute fair value gap. So we have kind of a very influential area that we want to watch, right? Anywhere above this level. The biggest thing I want to see is just a sweep of this 15-minute high. If we can get a sweep of this 15-minute high and then look to take that reversal, that's going to be the best setup that we could possibly get going into tomorrow, and that's going to be the biggest thing I'm watching. We have a clear 15-minute high. I'd like to see a push in the overnight session, to be honest, to get up near this level and then see this level traded into at the open. So if we can get a bounce up, possibly, you know, open somewhere around here, then get a push at the open and then look to take that 10 a.m. reversal back to, you know, that sell side level, that would be best case scenario. So going into tomorrow, again, a lot of it depends on what happens in the overnight session, but going into tomorrow, I will be bearish, continuing to be bearish, and I'd like to see, you know, all these imbalances here get met back into. We have going to the 4 hour again. Again, currently we're in these big fair value gaps here. We have one right here. We have one right here. These are now getting traded into. So I zoom out on that daily. This is going to be the one that I want to watch. I want to see us go straight through this. So I don't want to see us continue to hold this area. I want to see us go right through this, and I want to show no signs of any sort of bounce here. But it's going to be interesting because I do want to see a bounce here to then trade back up into this fair value gap and then see that fair value gap get broken. But for now, I do want to see that initial bounce to retrace back to discount, retrace, take out that 15-minute high, look to see if that sweep, and then look to take that trade back towards the downside, since, in my opinion, the draw going into this week is going to be lower. But again, a lot of it depends whatever happens in that overnight session. So that's what I'm going to be watching going into tomorrow. I am bearish. I want to see if that 15-minute high gets swept, possibly even a retrace back into that 1 hour fair value gap. Look to take some sort of short model if it, you know, appears, and look to take out whatever that internal sell side is level that, you know, that's created in the overnight session. So Let's take a look at NQ now. Again, similar thing on NQ as well. We have clear internal buy side being swept, market structure shift. We have a nice little fair value gap here. I'd like to see, again, internal or external sell side here get met. Want to see a potential retrace back up into this level. If I draw in the fib again, discount lies up in that fair value gap. Would like to see a bounce up into that, retrace, and then look to possibly see lower. But again, on NQ, it does come down to time frame. Or actually, it comes down to multiple things. So one thing that I want to pay attention to is NQ chart and NAS chart are actually a little bit different. So looking at the daily, or actually looking at the weekly, we have equal highs here that I want to see get swept. And on NQ chart, it hasn't been swept yet. But if you take a look at NAS chart, we've already swept this level now. So that's something that we kind of want to keep in mind. We've already traded back up into this. If I go to the monthly, we actually have this monthly fair value gap as well. So looking at NAS chart, this could be a very, I want to see a top put in here. I would want to see a top put in here and retrace back to, these levels down here. Right, we have a clear 1 month fair value gap that needs to get traded back into. If I look at the weekly, we have weekly fair value gaps that need to get traded back into. All of these areas I want to see get filled, right? So now that we're up in this level, we've taken out this equal high. We're technically kind of forming relative equal highs, but we've retraced back up. We're in this monthly fair value gap. I'd like to see a retracement back to the downside. Now, notice we've kind of overextended here a little bit. We've had a pretty big bull run in the last couple months here. I'd like to see a pullback into these weekly imbalances, these weekly fair value gaps. So going into this week and the next week, I'm going to be bearish because of a bigger time frame bias, right? Since my bigger time frame bias is as I want to see these, fair value gaps get, met back. When I zoom in, I want to start seeing those short models start to play out again, right? So zooming into the 4 hour, we can see we've came up, kind of formed relative equal highs. Again, we have this 4 hour fair value gap. I want to see if I'm bearish. I want to see this get disrespected. I don't want to see this 4 hour fair value gap continue to hold, right? What I want to see happen is I want to see this get broken through, show no respect towards this bullish fair value gap, retest it, and then possibly see lower, right? Notice we have all these imbalances right here as well. So going to the daily, I'm expecting a fair value gap. There it is. This is what I want the draw on liquidity to be. I want the draw on liquidity to be this imbalance, right? So going into this week, I'm going to be bearish, expecting a retracement back down to meet these imbalances again, right? Since we've kind of been very extended, if we look at this big move as well, look at this massive leg we have. If I was going to take that high to the low, notice where discount lies. Discount lies perfectly in that daily fair value gap where that imbalance is. So I could potentially see a retracement leg in this week. We're very overextended in my opinion. Just like to see possibly a daily candle reach back into that area and look to take out or just retrace back into those imbalances and take out whatever that internal sell side levels are. So same thing on NQ. I would take all these lows here to be low resistance liquidity runs. So this low is what I would want to see become sell side liquidity, as well as I kind of want to draw these here as well. But notice we have all these kind of wicks down here. I'd like to see all of these get traded back into. Something I want to watch as well is since we do have this low and we can see on the past, we have this massive wick here. A lot of the times, this is going to be a very sensitive area. So if we take the consequent encroachment, which is the exact midpoint of this wick, this is going to be a very sensitive area that we want to watch. So I'm actually going to draw out this level here as well on NQ, which actually lies right below that sell side level to see how that consequent encroachment level is going to react once we actually come back down to this. So first thing we need to see, though, is that daily fair value gap get disrespected, right? We're still trading into it. Want to see us break through this, potentially then bounce to retest it and then look to see lower. But again, I am still bearish. We have that internal level swept here. We have market structure shift with good displacement, right? Notice it's not like we come down, sweep this level, and then instantly bounce, right? We have a follow through in this level. We have a 1 hour fair value gap. This is what I want to see get traded back into. So potentially hold this fair value gap for now. Come back, trade back into this. Look to see the reversal, right? It's not like it comes back into this fair value gap and I automatically take a short, right? That's not what I want to see. I want to see some sort of high here get swept and look to take whatever that internal retracement is. So zooming into a 15-minute, right? If I'm going to take some sort of short entry here and I want to see a retracement here, but I could say, okay, we have this high here. That's what I'd want to watch. But I also want to watch these highs here because we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of stacked highs here. And it's right above that fair value gap. So I want to see this get swept first. And then I'd look for that internal model, right? So once we push up, I want to see a reaction first. I want to see, okay, do we displace back lower? Okay, then we sweep internal. Maybe market structure shift. Okay, then I can take that short, right? I want to see our model. I want to see structure start to form first before looking to take any sort of trade. Once we get structure starting to form, it's starting to form in our bias, then that gives us confirmation that's like, okay, now we can take that short. We have bigger time frame bias as well. We think the draw is lower. We're rejecting off monthly. We've swept internal here, big market structure shift. We're pulling back. Aligning all of these different time frames and all these different biases is going to give us the highest probable setup that we could possibly look for, right? This is going to give us high win rate, high risk percentage. This is what the kind of trades that we want to see, right? We have a bigger time frame bias, and now we're going to align a smaller time frame bias. Because even though, right, a lot of the times the thing that people struggle with is somebody might have, a strong bias on a bigger time frame, right? If we were looking at this chart, right, and we're looking at the 4 hour, and I say, okay, going into tomorrow, I'm very bearish. The 4 hour and the daily, the weekly, all of these higher time frames are very bearish. But you go down to the 5 minute, and you expect that every retracement that you get is going to get shorted. You can't expect that. Looking at this 15-minute chart, even though that weekly, daily, 4 hour, all that is bearish, we could still end up having a big bull run up to this area, right? And that would still be okay for our bigger time frame bias. You have to understand that. So, could we potentially take a long? Absolutely. If there's some sort of long setup here, potentially, right, targeting these buy side levels, right? Notice we have all these kind of lows here. I would want all this to become low resistance liquidity run, right? Once we get a push up, I would just want to see a straight up move, right? It'd kind of be choppy, but we'd eventually get there, right? Since all of this, I would want to see become low resistance liquidity run. But you have to be aware, just because we come up and we sweep this little short, high here, whatever it is, you can take a short. Now, that might be, work out some of the times, but you got to recognize, even though you're bearish on a bigger time frame, a lot of the times those smaller time frames still need area and still need room to retrace, right? Looking at this 1 hour, we've come down, probably reached a discount of this range now, right? If I draw in the high to the low, notice we've reached a discount of this range. We could definitely see a push back up into this area. So if we zoom out, right, like if we're looking at this chart, right, it looks normal, right? A push up would look normal. So going in, if market was opening right now, I would not take, a short position right here, right? I would not look to take a short here. I would potentially look to take a possible long to retrace back up into this, because right now, I would want the draw on liquidity to become these highs. I would want to see a retracement first to then take advantage of the short, right? I want to see everything line up perfectly with what my model wants and what price action needs to do first for me to get some sort of high quality setup. Now, would it be okay for me to watch these highs and see how they react? Absolutely. But is it going to be a lower quality setup trying to short down here than it would be shorting up here? Absolutely. So that's the biggest thing. A lot of the times you could possibly get a short or a long setup here. Imagine, this candle gets a big, massive move up and then we end up coming down. That is some sort of long opportunity, right? We have market structure shift right here. We have possibly a breaker block right here, right, that we draw in. Retrace back into this, potentially see buy side being met. If we look at a bigger time frame as well, we're also holding the past fair value gap. Notice we have a 1 hour fair value gap here. We're holding this 1 hour fair value gap really well, right? If you look at the wicks, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we continue to hold this. That is now bullish. So I would want to see a retracement back up to these higher levels. Now, even though I think the draw on liquidity is lower on a daily or 4 hour or 1 hour time frame, if I zoom into the 15-minute, the draw on liquidity is probably these highs, not these lows. Which one do you think is going to get taken out first? These highs or these lows down here? 100% these highs. So you have to take that into account, right? Noticing that even though I'm bearish for the week, even though, I have some sort of bias, my bias on a different time frame could be completely different, and I need to take that into account. So going in, if I was to look at the market right now, my bias would be bullish. I would be bullish right this second. But a lot of the times, again, me going into the charts tomorrow, I want to see what happens in the overnight session to possibly give me some sort of opportunity to then look to short the market, or maybe even take a long, right? If we open possibly down here, continue to consolidate, right? Let's say we wake up tomorrow and the market kind of does this, sweeps that sell side level, and then big displacement back up, right? And then we pull back here, right? So if I was to look at this, right, and we open up the market tomorrow and say, okay, guys, am I bearish or am I bullish? Looking at this, I would be, all right, I'm going to be a lot more bullish because notice a bigger time frame, we're continuing to hold that 1 hour fair value gap. We still have room to retrace, right? If I was to look at a bigger time frame like the 1 hour, we have a lot more room to retrace back to discount, right? We still have a lot of room to retrace discount, and we know discount most of the time is always going to be met again. So I'm going to be bullish on that time frame for the retracement on a bigger time frame. So zooming back in, I'd say, okay, now we're getting a short-term model, or we're getting, a long model, but on a smaller time frame, and that's what we would want to see. Say, internal level swept, we get market structure shift, big displacement, whatever that is, and then you get a fair value gap, whatever, and then targeting, those buy side levels or that fair value gap, that imbalance, right? That's what we want to see. That is the type of way that you can navigate the market, use our model, use liquidity, use fair value gaps, all of these things to understand what the draw is. That is the biggest thing in trading. I think my biggest edge in the market is I'm very, very good at understanding what the draw is. It's taken time. It's taken a lot of time to put in, but I've become very consistent and very confident with what I think the draw on liquidity is. And a lot of the times, all that has done is, or given me is, or all it takes to get there is just understanding structure. Once you understand structure and understand what the market needs to do first before doing what you expect it to do, that's the biggest thing. Because traders go into the market expecting to see some sort of outcome without seeing what it needs to do first to then provide that, that structure, those characteristics for that specific trade. For this example, if we're looking at a 4 hour and I'm bearish here, I need to see retracement back to discounted area and then possibly see a move down. Now, could we absolutely dump right here? Sure. The market can do whatever it wants. We could open up tomorrow and just have an absolute death candle to the downside. Is that likely? Probably not. What's more likely? More likely is that we'd bounce up to discount and then potentially see a continuation lower. That's something that you need to take into account. So short-term time frame, I want the draw to be back higher in these imbalances, then look to take that short position. But taking advantage of these intraday moves, if I have confidence that the draw is now higher on a bigger time frame, I can then be long biased here, look to take a long to whatever that level is, and then once we get here, I take it off knowing that's my short entry on a bigger time frame, right? So being able to understand different time frames, using different models, how to navigate, how to be confident with structure, how to be confident with draw and liquidity, all of these things combined gives us our edge in the market, right? And that's the biggest thing that we want to take advantage of. So does anybody have any questions so far? Any questions about the charts? Anything going into tomorrow? Anything going into the week? Whatever. Why do you watch US 100? US 100. Okay, so the NAS. Are you talking about NAS 100 or? So NAS 100 is, again, that's the reason it's just different charts. So I was looking at NQ. I want to look at both of these, right? Because both of these are going to be a little bit different. That's what I was talking about. It's something we want to pay attention to because if we look at the weekly time frame on the NQ chart, we have yet to come up to that level. But if we look at NAS, we've already swept, NAS 100. We've already swept these equal highs, right? And this chart is actually looking better in the sense that we did, right? Because the action is actually showing like we have reached that level, right? We're forming that model. So I want to keep in mind how both of these charts are starting to form out. Yeah, NAS is just the same as NQ, is the same as US. As the same as QQQ. Well, actually, QQQ is not technically not, I guess, but it tracks the same index. Actually, yeah, it is, I guess. Any other questions? How are we feeling, guys? We ready for tomorrow? I'm excited to get back in. All right, guys. That's all I have for you guys tomorrow. That's all I have for you guys tonight. How do you put the little names on the fair value gap? I just have templates for it. So on TradingView, if you draw something in on the chart, right, it could be a box, could be whatever, and you right-click it, go to templates, or, you know, you go to the settings first, right? So let's say I want to draw in like a name on it, right? I could draw in a name, right click template, save as. You can save it as something. And then anytime you go here, you go to templates, you can have all your templates here that you can click and put the name on. Do you have a schedule for your Twitch lives? No, the Twitch lives are just kind of random. It's just kind of whenever I'm having fun and just want to, you know, have a break. Yeah, Twitch lives are just for fun. What's the Batman song you were saying made you feel like him by? Oh, there's a couple of them. Change is probably the biggest one. Change or Rosemary. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. Anybody have any extra questions, feel free always to ask me in the Discord, and I'll get back to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for live trading. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys.